For the first time since the 2009 season, the Badgers will be hosting Michigan State here in Camp Randall. That's a long time in the life cycle of college football. Big game this week, joined by Tom Mulhern, Tom Oates of the Wisconsin State Journal. I'm Adam Mertz. We had rivalry week last week, guys, against Minnesota, and it's gotten to the point where that's almost a foregone conclusion for a lot of people walking into that game. There really wasn't a lot of emotion. I sense that that's going to be a little bit different this week, and I don't know if that's the impression you've gotten, either talking to players or even just kind of the fans around.
I think this is everything you want in a rivalry without it really being forced. I mean, it's significant games. It's two teams that have played great games, really back and forth, competitive games that have been meaningful in the outcome of the division or in the Big Ten the last couple seasons. And obviously it's important to the Wisconsin players to have this game here after the last couple of years as well.
To me, Mertzy, Mully touched on it.
Yeah.
The rivalry, to make a rivalry, it can't just be you play them every year. They're the next school across the border. The games have to be meaningful. Wisconsin, Minnesota played a lot of meaningful games through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and even in the 90s there were some, and early aughts, there were some very meaningful games, and they just haven't played very many meaningful games. Minnesota has not been competitive. They have to be going for the same kinds of things, and clearly Wisconsin and Minnesota, or Michigan State, the last 2 or 3 years have had their sights set on the Big Ten championship, and the games they've played have in many ways determined who wins the Big Ten championship. That's what makes a great rivalry.
And kind of the interesting footnote in terms of the scheduling is the last time that these teams are going to meet for 4 years now based on the divisional play. Iowa comes back on. I guess maybe you get a little bit of that same feel that way, but are you guys disappointed that once you were building something here and all of a sudden, poof, it's gone?
Well, I think you knew this was coming. I think that's, the downside of the current format and with two divisions is that good games against good opponents like this, when's the last time Wisconsin's faced Michigan? That's been a game that I think fans will be anxious to get that back on the schedule as well. So I think it's the give and take with the current format, and you got to kind of live with it.
That's what I don't like about big conferences. I think, to me, an ideal conference is 10 teams, and you play 9 conference games, and you play everybody, and you have a true champion. But college football, the money-driven aspect of it has taken college football well beyond that. It's not going back, so get used to it, which is too bad. The Iowa rivalry was interrupted. The Michigan State one built up, but Michigan, Wisconsin fans love to see the Badgers play Michigan. They haven't been able to for a few years, so that'll come back. But it's just kind of the way it is. I guess you have to accept it at this point.
You said there's two teams, Michigan State and Wisconsin, had a lot of similarities. Obviously, with last year, the star players at the right positions, quarterback, receiver, both have running backs back who are kind of carrying the load, and that seems to be sort of what they've built a lot around offensively. But you can talk a little bit about where these programs have come this year and kind of a little bit of a reloading year for both.
Similar programs, and even more than that. I think they're kind of the up-and-coming Big Ten programs that are trying to, crack the elite status of the Penn States and the Ohio States and the Michigans. And they've done a good job of it in recent years. And both programs clearly have talent. They have good coaching. They've little more developmental programs, not necessarily recruiting off the A-list, but I think very evenly matched in a lot of ways.
Quarterback seems to be kind of an area of focus, obviously, but in terms of the development of Joel Stave locally and then Maxwell at Michigan State, can you talk a little bit about what you've seen out of both of those guys and maybe they're almost kind of at the same track even though Maxwell's been in the program longer there?
Well, the interesting thing to me, Maxwell's a 4th year in the program. He's a junior. He's been groomed to follow Kirk Cousins, and he's the guy who's really struggled. I know he's ranked 3rd in the conference in passing yards, but I think that's been misleading. I think he's been a big disappointment this year. And a big part of that's the offensive line. They've had issues in the offensive line as well as Wisconsin. They've had 6 different offensive line combinations have started this year already for them. So, it's going to be interesting to see if Wisconsin can run the ball against them. They're ranked number 1 in the Big Ten in run defense, and this is going to put a little bit more on Joel Stave. And he's done some good things, did not have his best game last week, obviously, as we all know, and they're going to need more than 106 passing yards out of Stave this weekend, I think, because his yards are going to be hard to come by on the ground.
Is this kind of the next big test here for this offense to see where they're at? Because they didn't get what you maybe thought you'd see at Purdue. A lot of easy holes there last week the same way.
Yeah, I think when you looked at Purdue's defensive line, we thought that would be a great test.
Right.
And it turned out not to be the case. Purdue was a bit of a paper lion, and Minnesota, once they got the running game going there, they got the same thing against Illinois. So they've played these average to worse Big Ten teams, and now you're getting in with the big boys. And we've talked about Michigan State has a great defense, a great run defense. This is a true test of where this offensive line has come, where this running game has come, where this offense has come.
Great. Thanks for joining us. We'll have coverage all week in the pages of the Wisconsin State Journal and madison.com.